You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's Real Housewives of New Jersey After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Real Housewives of New Jersey After Show.
Everybody get up.
Ooh.
Oh, God. The day when we get sick of this song, what are we going to do?
I think it might come soon.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I'm hearing it way too often.
Too much. Kind of ruins it.
It does.
You want to love it.
It was great the first 2,000 times.
Yes.
After that. All right.
Oh, maybe I'm going crazy. Ooh. Hello, 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 Real Housewives fans. If you are tuning in right now, this is the AfterBuzz After Show for the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And lots of juicy topics, so we're just going to dive right in after we introduce ourselves. I am Diona Vaughan, and if you guys want to find me on Twitter and, just tweet your comments or let us know what you're thinking, you can tweet me at It's Me Diona V. That's Diona. It's Me Diona V. And my co-host.
And I am your host, Erika Garcia Rojas, and I'm here to talk all the juicy details of this episode. And you can tweet me, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at IamEGR. And let's get started.
Let's get started. Okay. All right, go away, Robin Thicke.
We're done with you for now.
We're done with you. Okay, so episode 9 on Thin Giud-Ice. I thought that was a really fun play on words, the title. So, okay, the therapy session continues, and can I just say, where was Dr. V like
a year ago?
Or 2 years ago, seasons ago.
I think she was filming.
Good
I think
one.
that's where she was.
Yeah, she was filming LA Shrinks.
Yeah.
But she has worked some amazing, therapy just on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think it was real? And when I say real, like, obviously we know, that she was counseling Teresa, Joe, and Melissa. But I mean, like, do we think that everything was genuine with how they made up? That's what I mean.
I mean, I think in the moment it was genuine. I mean, I think the emotions between Teresa and her brother Joe were very real. But once Melissa gets involved, and you even saw it here, that's when things turn icy. That's when the whole situation just goes south. And I think that they've made up temporarily, for the moment, for maybe, that part of the season or the rest of the season. But I mean, for everyone who reads the blogs and everything, it's apparent that they haven't. So, but I do think at the moment everything was real. And I think that Dr. V did work a little magic. I think she got into the heart of a lot of things. But when there's so much history and there's so many players involved, it is hard to fix something in, like, I don't know, what was it, like an hour, couple hour session.
Yeah.
They would need Dr. V on a continuous basis.
Every week.
Twice a week. Yeah. With one-on-one with Dr. V like that for the next year, I think, to really get at the heart of things.
I think she really hit the nail on the head when she said to them, and she said it more than one time, you guys just need to, connect together, just the two of you. I agreed with that, because I think at the end of the day, if Teresa and her brother, if they can fix what's happening between the two of them, I know that it also has to do with their spouses, but I think they kind of have to start with each other first.
Yeah.
I kind of liken it to the phrase, if you're in an airplane and, they say, make sure you put your mask on first before you help anybody else. I kind of liken it to that analogy. Like, I think they have to fix what's happening between them first before they can, really help anybody else. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree that that's what needs to happen, but I don't think that could happen in this case. I think Joey is so used to having such a strong female figure in his life and kind of letting that run the show. With Teresa growing up, it looks like they had that relationship. Teresa was a strong lead between the two of them, and he kind of just followed along. That's what I'm assuming how it was growing up. And now Melissa's got him whipped, and he really just sits back and kind of lets her run the show and make the decisions and be the one really in charge of this. So although I agree with you, I think that's what needs to happen. I don't think I don't think that'll ever happen.
So you agree with Teresa calling Joe, her brother, pussy whipped?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it totally is. I mean, here's the thing. You would hope that he would be pussy whipped for his wife, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, you would hope so. That's the mother of his children.
Right.
And that's how you expect a man to act, in the sense of, even, Juicy Joe said, I support my wife. So
right.
You would hope that he would support his wife. But at the same time, in this situation, you don't see Joe Gorga really even, I don't know. He doesn't even stand up for himself. He just kind of sits there and just lets his wife run the show.
I don't necessarily think he's pussy whipped. I don't know. I read some of Melissa's blog, and it necessarily wasn't this blog, but it was a few blog posts back, that he supports her. She comes first, not his sister. And when she broke it down like that, I'm like, I don't necessarily think he's pussy whipped.
Yeah, that's why I don't think
like
it's
that
pussy.
word,
I don't like it either. I think he just supports his wife, but he plays a very kind of, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm trying to think of, like the almost submissive role between the two of them. He doesn't really take charge in the respect of the relationship between his sister and Melissa. It seems like he's allowing Melissa really more to call the shots in that arena. So that's a little different than being supportive of your wife and being there for her and all that. I think it's a little different.
But I also think that the issues happening between Teresa and Melissa, like, should he step in and, and strong arm the situation? I don't know. In a way, it's like, okay, you got two grown women. You guys started this, fucking figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, but it all leads to Joe too.
Right.
It does. So, but yeah, I think they all need to get on the same page. They all need to get there, and they all need to have therapy. I don't think, nothing could be solved without the three of them getting together and really hashing it out.
Okay, so what did you think about Dr. V? Here's one thing I like about her, and what's nice about actually going to therapy, because you get someone completely objective. She doesn't know them, so she's going to just call everybody on their shit. But what did you think about her calling Teresa out and basically telling her she's a dumbass because, she's placed herself in a position where she's around people who talk about Melissa, yet she chooses to idly stand by and doesn't do anything. She called her a dumbass. Yeah. Like, what did you think about that? We've
talked about this before in past episodes where, I feel that with Teresa, it's like it could have been the wrong time, wrong place for her, but she doesn't do herself any favors by continuing to be around these women.
Exactly.
So granted, maybe Teresa was totally set up. Maybe Jacqueline set her up, and this whole thing, and maybe Teresa really didn't know. Who knows? That's all everyone's throwing around. That's what Teresa's saying. But at the end of the day, Teresa was still there with Kim, and she was still there with, and now you see her with Melissa's friend, ex bridesmaid or whatever, and so Teresa just doesn't do herself any favors by being around those people. Whereas, with Melissa, and then it goes back with Melissa's with Jacqueline and Caroline. Well, like we've said this before, I still stand by this. It's like, it's part of the show, it's part of the cast. The producers, I'm sure it's part of the contract that you're going to have to be around these women.
Exactly.
So, and who knows how Kim D's worked into the show. I don't know. She could be definitely part of, she's not a housewife, but I see her as definitely being a mouthpiece.
Oh, absolutely.
For, whether it's the producers for other things and for storylines to move forward.
Right.
So we don't know how that's all set up, but as a viewer, you see Teresa associating herself with these women. So in some ways, you don't necessarily blame Melissa for not 100% trusting Teresa. Whereas although Teresa might not have actually done anything, her being there, wrong place, wrong time, just doesn't help.
Well, it's guilt
and
by
it makes
association.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it makes Teresa look bad.
Right. And I know Melissa is no saint by any means, but when it comes to that, I still I don't think we've heard it yet at all. I don't think Teresa has taken any responsibility for being around these women, when the topic of Melissa comes up. She still hasn't taken any responsibility for, not stepping out of the room or speaking up. We still haven't heard that.
We haven't heard that. That's a good point. I
that.
would love to see Teresa say, you know what, I shouldn't be around her. But she stands by being friends with Kim D. She says, I've been friends with her forever. So you don't see Teresa being remorseful about the fact that she was there. You see her defending herself and saying, I didn't do anything, which, could well be the case. But it is hard to, it would be, I would imagine, hard to trust her if she's associating herself with those people. But what I thought was interesting was, at the beginning of this episode, you see, they recap that kind of emotion that between Joe and Teresa, and it was really touching, and you see them both really listening. Yeah. You see Teresa very much wanting to work things out.
The baby high-pitched voice was coming out.
The emotion was real. And then you see Melissa, and it's like ice.
Yeah, she had a lot of attitude.
Ice queen walking in. Like, even Rosie was, I think, trying to give her a high five as she was leaving the table, and Melissa just ran right past her. And you just see it's anxiety on her end. You see just her fear of losing control over the situation. Because, like I said, I do feel that Melissa has a control over Joe, or she's controlling somewhat the situation. Yeah. And with Dr. V there and having these candid discussions, Melissa just she's not open to it the way Teresa's open to fixing the relationship.
And I think at the end of the day, to your point, I don't think Melissa wants things to get better. I really don't. Because we see one thing play out on TV, and then when you go read these blogs, it's a whole nother scenario. Yeah. So I don't care how much hugging out they did, on this episode. When you go back and read their blogs, it's still war.
Well, even in this episode, I got the sense that Melissa wasn't that. I mean, just throughout the episode, I just got the sense that I didn't truly believe on her end that she accepted any of this, any of the apology that Teresa said, that she accepted wanting to move forward. I didn't see it. Even when Teresa hugged her, you see Melissa.
Genuine.
It was on Teresa's end. I did feel that Teresa was, I love you, da da. And I think what she's saying is I love you, I love your brother, and I love your husband, my brother, and as a result, I need to love you. But you saw more emotion from Teresa, and Melissa, you really didn't see it. And in the direct to camera with Melissa, she's just snippy a lot. She's just saying kind of nasty things, and you're just like, I just don't see any warmth from Melissa in wanting to reconcile things.
I agree 100% on that one. And then moving on with this therapy, it then becomes like a couples therapy session. So Juicy Joe joins the group. So then it's the two couples sitting with Dr. V. And I have to say, this last episode I was impressed with Juicy Joe, and this episode I am too. He's like a changed man. So, what is it?
I don't, Diona, I want to say, I think to me the star of this episode was Juicy Joe.
Yeah.
Past seasons, I was like, dude, what is Teresa seeing him? He just seems like a dum-dum. He's just like, I don't get it. But he was totally the star of this episode. He was level-headed. Yep. And when they brought him in, and then it was interesting between him and Joey, Joey was like, all this hate. You've got all this hate. And Juicy Joe's like, I don't have any hate. And it's like Joey's deflecting his hate. Because you saw last episode saying, I hate him. This is 10 years of hate. I hate him. I hate him. You never once heard Juicy Joe say that at all. He just said, the dude tried to bite my nuts. But he didn't say, I hate. You didn't hear those words come out. And the minute Juicy Joe sits down, he's like, you got all this hate. You got all this hate. He's like, dude, I don't hate you.
I think the issue with these two men I think with Joey, I think he harbors a lot of resentment for years past with how Juicy Joe has affected his relationship with his own father. So with his, his father-in-law. And then when it comes to Juicy, I think at the end of the day, he's just trying to make sure his wife is okay. Like he doesn't want Teresa to be feeling, like she's being beat up on, whatever. But for Joey, he's got like a whole list of just issues with him from the past. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, so. And it doesn't make sense for Juicy to kind of add fuel to the fire. It doesn't make sense for him to be like, yeah, I hate you and I hate your, wife and blah, blah, blah. I think he's doing the right thing and just kind of taking a back seat to this. This is Teresa's fight, really, and he's there to support her. And he's and in this situation, like, he's kind of there guiding her in some ways. He's saying, work things out with Jacqueline.
That was a shocker at the end.
I know. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That was a shocker. But I think if Juicy were to like say things, and it would just add fuel to the fire. It would just make Teresa further look bad, in their eyes. So I think it's good what he's doing, and I'm a big fan of him this episode. I never in a million years would have thought that would be the case.
Never. I agree with you.
But I'm like, okay, all right. And they showed a picture of him when he was younger. I'm like, oh, he's cute. Yeah, look at him.
I know,
right?
Like,
yeah.
It's crazy what weight can do.
Yeah.
to you,
I know,
you know what I mean? Because now it's like, oh. All right, so the boys and Rosie. I love how when they all hang out with Rosie, she's literally one of the guys, because they'll be like, oh, what are the girls doing, or where are the girls at? And it's like, they don't even acknowledge that she's a woman. But we get a little break. They go ice fishing, and what I think is funny here is that it's men being men. So even though they hugged it out with their session with Dr. V, they start going at it again.
They do. Wait, but before that, there's one thing I wanted to ask you that happened before that.
Okay.
So what do you think about the fact that Kathy was kind of passed over?
Okay, two things. I get that the main point of this whole retreat was for Teresa to heal, like, with her brother. Like, that was the main reason why this whole thing happened. But at the same time, Kathy did have her issues with Teresa, and they are family as well. I don't necessarily think it was right that, her feelings were not really truly acknowledged and kind of glossed over. But at the same time, I get it, just because I get the whole purpose of that whole retreat. It was for Juicy and Teresa and Joe and Melissa to try and freaking figure out the relationship.
Then why have Kathy there? And I was disappointed. I would have liked to have seen Kathy and Teresa not go at it, but I would have liked to have seen that.
Get their issues off the table.
Yeah. Because that's still going to be unresolved. And then I think still that Kathy, still ends up being on Team Melissa or Team... And so without it being addressed, I think it leaves a few things left untied, and I was disappointed, and I was hoping to see them talk it out too.
It would have been nice because that was a perfect forum for it. You had Dr. V there, so it would have made sense, but I understood why it didn't really happen. I mean, who knows what we're going to see in the next couple episodes. Are they ever really going to sit down, as cousins and work out what their issues are? I don't know, but it almost, not
with Dr. V. She's awesome.
I know, but in a way, it kind of made sense to me because I feel like those other main relationships needed to be healed first before she could go down the line and heal any other relationship. So in a sense, to me, it was actually good that Jacqueline wasn't there. And I know that, like, not everybody agrees with that. But, like, in hindsight, I think it probably was good that she wasn't there. Because those other core relationships, they need to figure that shit out before they can move on to friends and cousins and all that shit. So
yeah, and Jacqueline's so crazy right now. It seems like that just having her in there would have just caused another fight. I do think I don't know if they had more time with Dr. V, if this was like a week-long thing with her, then I think definitely Jacqueline being there would have been important. But she just, I think the most important relationship is between Joe and Teresa. So, but all right, so you're talking about the guys and Rosie out there on the ice, having fun, kind of picking fun at each other. And, the guys are just like, they just want to hang out and get along, but You know, Joey, he's an emotional little guy. He's like, he's a passionate, emotional guy. And because he was still kind of trying to pick the fight. You even saw Richie going, come on, dude, like, you know, get over it.
I don't know. I just think at the end of the day, these guys are always going to just throw shit back and forth at each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's just kind of how men handle shit versus the way we as women, you know, we're a lot more emotional, and I think we hold on to things a lot longer. Hopefully no one is offended by that, but that's how, you know, that's what I think when it comes to the way men and women handle situations like that. At the same time, like, I kind of agreed with Richie. He's just like, look, you guys just got finished, you know, like, come on. You know?
I mean, that's because that shows to me that Joey isn't over it.
No.
Like, he's still pissed at Juicy. He's still pissed. So it's like he's not letting it go, and it's like, he's still harnessing all, like he said. How can he go from hating him to loving the guy? So you still feel that they're just joking, but there's a little bit of a punch with what Joey was kind of joking around with.
And you know, the one word that I haven't really heard with this group at all is just forgiveness.
Yeah,
you have not really heard that word. I think everybody...
Well, I think what first needs to happen is they need to admit to things. That's like the first step, and nobody is admitting to anything.
True.
And this is the first time you actually saw Teresa admitting for doing something wrong.
But not enough.
V. No.
Not enough. She needs to... There's a lot more she needs to...
well, they both do.
Fess up on. Yeah, I agree.
Teresa... And Melissa, I mean, they both do, but nobody wants to admit to anything. So how can you admit and forgive someone
at the same time
if they're not admitting to stuff? But
That's
I agree
true.
too. Yeah, they
I have not
no
heard
forgiveness.
That word.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I just want to remind everybody to make sure you check us out on iTunes. You can download our podcast for free. We also really encourage you guys to make comments. We know you love to make comments because we read them. But also...
I love the comments.
Yeah, they're great. Oh, you know what? I'm going to halt my spiel because we have a caller. Caller.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Michelle, calling from Dallas.
Hi, Michelle from Dallas.
Welcome. What do you have to say? What do you think about the whole episode?
Oh, that was a good episode. I just was wondering if Richie's purpose there was to be an instigator, because it seemed like he was trying to stir up some drama when they were ice fishing. You know, bringing up the fight and everything, and he's just really inappropriate. You know, in my opinion. He's kind of like a douchebag, actually.
You know what? I'm glad you bring up that point because he has been somewhat of an instigator, not just this episode, but even previous ones. It's almost like he does like to stir things up, but at the same time, he's not able to finish what he started. So I'm glad you brought that up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that Richie, that's kind of his personality. He's like that. I mean, Michelle, you said douchebag. He's kind of like that, kind of that jokester, and he does stir the pot, and he likes to stir the pot and then stand back.
Exactly.
So he likes to like throw things in there and then stand back. And then, but I mean, the thing is though, he's so blatantly kind of, been on Melissa and Joe's side that he stirs the pot, but then it always seems to kind of be against Teresa and Juicy. So yeah, good observation and
Very good.
yeah, thanks Michelle.
While we have you on, Michelle, we would love to find out like whose side are you on when it comes to, you know, team Melissa, team Teresa, like what's your take on all that?
Even though like Teresa's done wrong, I'm actually team Teresa, because I feel like, first of all, they came on the show intentionally to put their business out on the street. If you're really trying to get your family together, you're not going to go on reality TV. I mean, let's be serious.
Well, yeah.
And plus her complaining about Teresa talking to these friends and she should walk away. I mean, they're on a reality show. They're going to have dinner. They're supposed to do that. If Teresa got up every time when they got together, she got together with Kim D, who's a friend of the Housewives, she wouldn't even have, they wouldn't even have those scenes to shoot. So I'm sure they want her to sit there and listen, because they probably, at this point, it's kind of what happened to Teresa in her third season, which is happening to Melissa in her third season. Her secrets are being exposed and her real personality is being exposed. So she can't get mad. she signed up for reality TV just like Teresa did.
But what do you think about, okay, so fine, we know it's a reality show. Teresa can't get up every single time, but at the very least, don't you feel like she should at least acknowledge, you know, speak up, say something, you know, in those situations?
Maybe if her and Melissa would get along, but like if it was somebody I wasn't getting along with, I wouldn't care what they said. I mean, to be honest, because you know they're not getting along. They haven't spoken in a year. She already heard that she was a stripper or whatever, so it didn't faze her. It wouldn't faze me. I mean, it wouldn't faze me either.
You know, Michelle brings up like a good point, because when you read kind of the stuff that's out there, you know, Teresa obviously was on the show before Melissa,
right? But
Teresa apparently, you know, is in some kind of a long contract with Bravo. So when Melissa was asked to be part of the show, Teresa didn't want Melissa and her brother to be on the show at all, because of, you know, granted, secrets of the family would be exposed, all that issue would be there on the air, and Teresa herself couldn't get off the show. Supposedly she said, you know, if they're getting on, I want to get off, but Teresa's stuck. And so, granted, Teresa signed up for the show and wanted to be a part of it, but I don't know if having her entire family dirty laundry exposed was originally her intention. But at the end of the day, I mean, Teresa doesn't own the Bravo franchise, so Melissa and Joe can get on the show if they want. But I think Teresa supposedly didn't want them to be on it, and she says, if they're on it, I want to get off it because I don't want all of that on the air.
Well,
but now they're forced to be in it together.
She loves that check too much, because you know what I mean.
Well, supposedly she's in a contract where Teresa cannot get out of being on the show.
I would love to find that out. I would love to find out like, what kind of contracts they sign, if it's just for a season or
I think
if it's for multiple
Teresa's
seasons.
was a 5-year contract. It was like a pretty long contract. I think her and Caroline are both in some kind of a contract with Bravo to be on it for multiple seasons, and Teresa can't get out of it. And so then it's interesting when you look at like the whole situation with Melissa saying, well, you know, we want to move to get away from them. Well, if you really, really wanted to get away from them, get off the show.
Yeah.
Really, if you really want to get away from them, if that's truly what you have at your, you know, what you really want.
Right.
Because I don't believe, and I could be wrong, and we've got some great listeners and viewers that have all this information, but I don't believe Melissa's in that kind of long-term contract that Teresa's in. So,
well, she's probably not. I think what Melissa's doing, she's using the show as a platform to do her music.
Yeah.
And now she has a book. So I think that was the whole purpose of being on the show, because they saw Teresa being successful, and they wanted to too. Okay. And Teresa, I think she's going to stay on the show because in the first 2 seasons, Joe was the one who was making the money, providing for the family, then the whole bankruptcy.
Not
and
anymore.
it flipped, so now she's the breadwinner, so she has to make the money and take care of the family. Because at this point, I don't even know if Joe does he have a job? Does he bring in money?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't know. But I mean, supposedly, so one of the things with Melissa is that, you know, she tried to get her sisters on the show, and then Bravo's not even allowing them to be on the show at all anymore. Like not even be on it. Supposedly that there's a whole thing with the sisters where they were leaking out information, and that just, I guess, just people that they didn't become fan favorites. People didn't like them. So the goal for Melissa was to get her sisters on the show, and then that didn't happen.
So she could be backed up.
Yeah. So, but supposedly Teresa's doing really, really well with her businesses. Like she's doing really well, but then you see in the last episode, Melissa's kind of knocking all of Teresa's businesses. Like, she said something about like, oh, you know, no one's gonna endorse her, so she needs to have all these like stupid little side projects or something, which is an interesting note. Yeah, she said that in the last episode, which is an interesting note, because apparently I believe Melissa was endorsed by she's endorsing some kind of vodka line, which I believe they just actually canceled her endorsement deal. And they said something to the effect of, you know, we want a partner who's going to be more involved and not just want to be up on the posters. So, yeah, but so anyways, but Michelle, thank you so much for the call and for your comments and questions. And we definitely appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Michelle.
Okay.
All right. That was great. She had some good stuff to say. Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle from Dallas. We love callers.
We do. It's fun to get people in here.
But before we continue, I have a little message for AfterBuzzers everywhere. So we need you. We're a part of your lives, a part of the way you enjoy your favorite shows, and we become very close with many of you, like Michelle. Now we need your help. We bring you the best in television coverage, quality programming with commentary, guests, exclusives, fan fun, with no commercials or no pop-ups, right? So now we need your help with Serial Buddies, Adventures of Serial Buddies. It's a hilarious new killer buddy comedy, and it's produced by AfterBuzz TV founders CEO Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro, and it is now available on demand, okay? It costs $5.99, and you will get the laugh of your life. The movie stars Two Broke Girls, Beth Bears, Artie Lang, Kathy Lee Gifford, Christopher Lloyd, Christopher McDonald, and of course our very own Maria Menounos. So make sure you download the Adventures of Serial Buddies. It's only $5.99. And by doing so, you definitely help us here at AfterBuzz. You help the studio, and we've got like all new stuff in here. So it's it's a win-win situation. Right?
Yep,
Erika?
win-win,
Okay.
win-win. All right, back to the episode.
Okay.
So where do we leave off? So then they started. Now that the guys are out there, they're having fun, and the women meanwhile are cooking, or some of them are, and some of them are getting drunk. So
Alcohol makes it all better, right?
Yeah. That was funny.
All right. So we see the ladies in the kitchen cooking and wasted, and at the end of the day, it's Melissa who is like definitely
Totally wasted.
wasted.
According to the Orange County Housewives, naked wasted. Like she was with that vodka bottle, and she was definitely chugging it down, and Kathy's in her element. She was cooking. Teresa was cooking. They both were all kind of excited and cooking. And then Melissa, meanwhile, I don't think she cooks. It didn't look like she's much of a cook, because she definitely didn't participate in the cooking.
It's funny because seeing Melissa get drunk, and then it kind of jives with things that I've kind of heard about Melissa, offline. I've heard that even though on the show she wants everybody to think that, she's a good mom and she's this and she's that, when really, like, she just, when the cameras are off, it's like, all right, here, go to your nanny, and I don't have anything to do with this, So it was interesting the comment you brought up about the alcohol line, about how they want someone who's going to promote it, not only just look pretty in the pictures, and then seeing her get drunk, it kind of like just pulled everything together for me when it comes to her.
This was the first time we actually saw her drunk, I believe. Like drunk, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't just the fact
like
that
just tipsy.
Yeah, it was almost like she just she wanted to escape. She didn't want to have to really say anything, or like just really, interact with the ladies, especially now that they've quote unquote made up. So that was just kind of like her escape. That's how I saw it. I don't know. What do you think?
I thought she kind of turned into like Mean Girl. So she kind of, first of all, it was weird. She was like flirting with Rosie with that whole like peach thing. Like that was just kind of like, all right. And then
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, and supposedly like that's part of her reputation too. That like when she drinks, she gets really flirty and all that. But then she was mean to Kathy. She said though, like, oh, the quiet girls are whores. It's like, dude, like that was totally not nice and totally uncalled for. And so she just turned a little bit into a mean girl, in my opinion. And I don't know, it wasn't becoming on her, I have to say.
I think more and more, because like I've flip-flopped a little. Like we always say, each episode I kind of just watch it and, make my opinions and what I think based off of the episode. But it's also, cumulatively, you start to see people's character. And I really think we're really starting to see Melissa's character. Yeah. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
And I go back and forth with Teresa, but I feel like, okay, as screwed up as Teresa can be, with not acknowledging shit, at least she's consistent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Melissa, I don't know.
Her true colors are looking like they're coming out. But I agree too with like the whole Teresa thing. Like I go back and forth with Teresa. Like I've loved her, I've not liked her, I've liked her, and then she'll say something and like, oh gosh, how could you say that? And then you see her in this situation where you see a lot of genuine emotion and a lot of desire to want to reconcile things and put her pain and whatever aside to make things right with her brother Melissa. And then Melissa's just cold as ice. And yeah, you're seeing that come out. And just little tiny things, like little things that are coming up, especially in the last couple episodes with that whole fight.
She's nasty.
And her her pretending like she didn't know what the shoe polish was, or didn't know what the hair thing was. And just little things that are slowly coming out. Or maybe it's just the producers are letting things slip, because they have ultimate control on what they decide to show. So she might have exhibited this kind of behavior in the past season, and producers maybe wanted to paint Teresa in the bad light or whatever. So a lot of it has to do. I mean, they're the gods of this world of what gets presented to us, the viewers.
Editing and the producing, but at the same time, they're only capturing what you're giving them too.
That's true.
And I know that it can be edited and mixed up, but still, like, her behavior is her behavior. So, were you surprised by Juicy's nice gesture when it came to Chris and Jacqueline? Who I kind of liked how the cameras went back and forth. They pan to Chris and Jack having dinner and talking about the situation. Were you surprised by Juicy's gesture?
I was a little surprised. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting it, and it seemed genuine that he wanted to work things out. I don't really know why. I guess maybe because he has a long connection with Chris. You're wondering, okay, is this whole thing between Jacqueline and Teresa, is it blown out of proportion? Like, why does he really want to get this reconciled? Is it the producers, which I don't think it is. I think it might be more him wanting to. I think he was really close with Chris, and so,
which I guess, I mean, in seasons past, we'd always seen the guys getting together for their poker nights and stuff like that, so I knew they were friends. But I guess until I saw or I heard him say to Caroline, hey, I got this bottle of wine that we made, I guess I didn't realize how deep their relationship was. And I don't mean deep like,
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I guess I didn't realize how tight they really were. I knew they were friends, but I guess I just,
They've referenced it before. They've alluded to the fact that they were really close. But I was surprised at this. And then you see it pan back to Jacqueline and Chris. And Jacqueline's just like, she's done. She's done. She's over it. She has no interest in wanting to move forward. She has no interest in reconciling it. And actually, Teresa kind of shares that same sentiment also. Except she has Caroline saying, "Oh, if I fall on you, you have to reconcile with Jacqueline." She's like, "Oh,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the trust and fall." So we actually saw. Well, this whole retreat thing has been like, I want to say, 3 episodes long?
Yeah.
And probably this one will end it. But
I think they're going to do one more. I think.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay.
Who knows? I don't know.
Well, I guess the point I was making is when they first got to Lake George, I think that they did an exercise.
Yeah, with the team builders.
With the team building thing. And so now we're doing it again, but everybody's drunk. What did you think about Caroline's challenge about, okay, so I'll do this, but you have to promise, to try and make amends with Jacqueline?
Well, that's my same question. Why is Caroline so interested in them making amends? Because Caroline, it seemed like, had beef with Teresa. So she herself personally has beef with Teresa. And obviously, if you have beef with someone, you don't like them as a person. You think they did wrong.
Right.
So why is she pushing for her and Jacqueline, for Teresa and Jacqueline to get back together?
In my opinion, I just think because Jacqueline is her sister-in-law, so she definitely sees Jacqueline in a different light than the rest of them would. And I think she knows how much Jacqueline is hurting over this situation. And actually, somebody made a comment. They were just like, "Oh, I'm so tired of the phrase, we're in a good place now." So,
someone on our YouTube, the commenters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple people have thrown that out. And I have to say, I agree with that. What's the point I was making? Oh, the point I was making is that I think Jacqueline really... or Caroline sees how much Jacqueline is hurting. And as much as Jacqueline will say, I don't care, I don't want to be there, I'm over Teresa, I'm done, I think in her heart of hearts, I think Caroline knows that she would really like to reconcile with her and have some sort of friendship. That's what I think. That's why she's kind of putting her 2 cents in.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, she's maybe more in private, acting like she's hurt. But then she says these little jabs Jacqueline does. I mean, you see when she's sitting there with Chris, and they said something like, "Oh, Joe Gorga said that he lost his virginity at 9," and she's like, "Oh, to Teresa." I mean, that's just like a nasty thing to say.
That was
nasty. It's like a gross, nasty thing to say, and it's just like, she's like, "Oh, that's where all the problems stem from." I'm like, really? I understand you're mad, you're upset, but that's going below the belt. That's making Jacqueline just look really immature and really just not too smart. I mean, it's just not a cool thing to say.
And then on Jacqueline's blog, actually, I feel like I read all of the ladies' blogs, but this week Jacqueline, like in general, she just kind of skims the surface with the drama. But this week she really, she went deep, I thought. And basically she was just once again breaking down like, what happened and why, and the fact that, Teresa still holds her responsible for everything that's, the dissension between her and her brother. But Jacqueline really broke it down. And it's like, who do you believe? Because you hear her side, you hear Teresa's side, and it's just like, what's the truth?
Yeah.
But she really broke it down. I don't know. Where do you stand on it? Like, do you believe Jacqueline?
this is the situation where I don't know either between Jacqueline and Teresa. I mean, part of me believes that there's truth in both of them a little bit, but I don't know. It's so convoluted too. I mean, I do believe that Teresa was set up. I do, but I do.
But by who? That's what.
And I fault Teresa for being there also with Kim D. I fault that. But I do think she was set up. I mean, you see, and Caroline says this too, like, you have to catch Teresa off guard, and that's when you see her
true moments.
And you do see, like, when she hears those things of, oh, she's a stripper, blah, blah, blah. You see that look of, like, oh, holy crap on Teresa's face. Like, that, threw her for a loop or whatever. So, I genuinely thought she was genuinely surprised. But I don't know.
Because I read Jacqueline's blog, and after reading it, I was like, because her whole side is, at that posh fashion show, she said she got a text from somebody, and that's what I want to know. Who is the somebody she got this text from? But she got a text from somebody that Melissa was going to be set up.
I think it was the producer.
Teresa, I have a feeling it was too.
I think that's what it was.
But she keeps referring to this text, and she stands by, the truth, that's the truth. And meanwhile, Teresa is saying, you set me up, you went to my brother and told my brother A, B, and C. But according to Jacqueline, what she told her brother is true based off of the information that she had. So I don't know who or what to believe.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was a producer. They're saying it was a producer, and I think this particular person got fired or something. I need to go back and refresh my memory. I'm sure some of our listeners probably have that information, but I'm pretty sure that's who she was texting with. So then it's like, okay.
I don't know. I feel like we just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I wish we could just finally move on and just, clean the slate, but I don't know if that's going to be happening anytime soon.
I don't know either. I mean, at the beginning of the episode, too, you see them say little things here and there to Dr. V. Like, you see them say, well, when, like, Melissa said something like, when the seeds are planted, how can you move past that? And what she's alluding to is the fact that Teresa's out there saying all these lies about them, or out there talking smack about them and planting seeds, and yet then acting like, oh, I didn't do anything.
Right.
So.
But Dr. V came back and said, fuck what people say. You guys are family. You guys are if people see you guys as a united front, that's all that matters. And I think that's a really great point.
Yeah.
So.
And then you see Teresa saying, well, if something's bothering you, why can't we communicate better? But it's funny because the way Teresa says it, it's like, oh God. Like, she says it in a way that, like, she takes no blame herself.
Yeah.
But she's like, and you guys need to communicate better, because if something bothers you, talk about it right away and nip it in bud.
As if she does that. I was like, come on.
I think she's alluding to the fact that they haven't talked for over a year, and now all this stuff comes up.
Well, we are running out of time.
Oh
my gosh.
I feel like we can go forever and talk.
I know.
The thing is, though, you can go so deep in the layers with this show, and what our job here is just to recap the episode and to kind of go through the episode, but it's so hard to do because there's so much history with everything and all the characters and all that. So I think. One thing that was hilarious is that, Melissa's drunk, and then you see, I think it's Rosie, or who was it that was carrying Melissa?
Oh, it was it was her husband.
It was her husband?
Yeah,
it was her husband?
Joe.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm a whore. I thought that was kind of funny for somebody who has been accused of, like, technically being a stripper, and it's like, and last week she's like, we're white trash. It's like,
well,
all right, Melissa. Like,
you know what?
You're not doing yourself any favors here. Everyone's kind of calling you a whore, and you're saying I'm not, and now you're kind of,
you know what they say about liquor. They also call it truth serum. So I think that was coming out.
It was coming out.
So that's a good note to end on until we reconvene next week. I just want to do a quick shout outs from YouTube. Tonio72. Now, Tonio was the one who said, You know, he's tired of the phrase, we're in a good place now. I couldn't agree with you more, because they say that we're in a good place now, but then you go read these blogs and then, you know, you see the shenanigans they get involved in, you know, on camera. It's just, stop saying it. So thank you, Tonio. And then Laura Lee, you guys had a lot of commentary, and Joseph Boza. Do you have any shout outs?
No, I mean, just everybody in general, thank you so much for all your comments on YouTube, on iTunes, also on Twitter. Definitely continue to tweet us. And if you like the show, tweet it out to your friends, tweet it out to your followers, let your friends know too, because the more feedback for us is great.
Yeah,
we love it.
And make sure you follow us too.
Yeah, follow us. And we know with this show, we know people are super passionate about the show like we are. So we know there's super fans out there. We know, and that's our job here, is just to recap the show and give you guys something fun to listen to. If some of you guys are out there who have nobody to watch it with, like me, and before I started doing the show, I was like the only one. None of my friends, my husband, nobody watches this show. So you got to get your Real Housewives of New Jersey fix, and it's fun.
Yes.
To talk and chat about it. So
thanks, guys. And let's see, Erika, where can they find you?
All right, guys. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Your host, Erika Garcia Rojas. You can find me at IamEGR.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My God, I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. My handle for both is It's Me, Diona V, and that's Diona, Diona. It's me, Diona V. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week for another juicy episode. Keep those comments coming, and that's it.
Thanks,
From
guys.
Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.